So Davoo just made a cool vlog called Theory About Dipped Patreons, where he's talking about his ideas about why Patreons either have a difficult time getting started with their growth, or why they'll halt their growth, and what causes them to start growing in the first place. So he was theorizing that in order to make people give you money, because of the fact that people are so hard up on their wallets, it's so difficult for people to make that leap into deciding they're going to start paying you. You need to basically shake them down. You need to basically attack people and make them feel as though they have to give you money because you've done something that is so impressive to them. And I completely agree. Every time my Patreon has ever gone up, it's not every time it's ever gone up. I mean, like, it goes up incrementally all the time. But anytime I have made, like, a huge statement piece, it will go up exponentially. And he talks about how at the end of the Asterisk War Sucks, like, literally when episode 12 came out, the part 12B, the final segment, the Patreon skyrocketed. And I mean, there was nothing particularly different about 12B as compared to other episodes in the series. They were all really successful. They were all about equal writing quality and presentation quality. It was the fact that I had completed the entire thing that made it impressive. And so over time, whenever I've had videos like that, or when I completed some kind of arc, some kind of major thing that people respond to, that's what gets them into the action. And, like, you have to have that narrative element. And Patreon tells you this all the time. They tell you that, like, the narrative is what matters. It's what gets people to open their hearts. But the narrative has to be compelling. It has to be that you are a hero overcoming seemingly impossible odds. And that's how I've framed things continually. Back in 2014, when I did a video every day for a month, I didn't announce it to my fans. I did it as a bet with a bunch of people in my personal life, and I got a bunch of people to bet against me, and it was easy money because they all lost when I won. You know, when I made a video every day, all month, because when people think that your bet sounds crazy, they are more likely to bet higher and to be impressed if you can actually do it, even if in my mind it didn't even sound that difficult, because I know how fast I can make videos, and I know that everyone would underestimate it. So, and if I can complete these big, huge pieces, and I know what the pieces are, I know what people respond to broadly. However, what I wanted was to be able to make money doing whatever I want. I wanted to be able to make money while not doing the thing that will obviously grow the Patreon. I wanted to see if it was possible to grow the Patreon while just doing whatever the fuck. And the reason that I was willing to take that risk is that my cost of living was so far below what I was making that I was willing to take the risk. Like, my rent was super low. All I spent money on was food. Like, I didn't have anything that I was, like, buying regularly. I didn't have anybody I was taking care of. So, you know, it was just basically whatever extra money I had was just for me to throw around and do whatever with. And so in that time, I just said, alright, well, instead of making the 30-minute analysis videos that everyone wants from me, I'm gonna make the stuff that I think is fun to do. Like podcasts and random thought ideas and just, like, I mean, the human content machine era, Davoo pointed out how there was a period where the main channel slowed down. That was actually the period where the After Dark channel got insanely fast. That was where it was like 2 videos a day for months, because for most of the back end of last year, I was just putting out, like, all these pre-scheduled podcasts where I'd do, like, 13 episodes recorded in a few days and then schedule them over the course of a while, you know, and all of it was experimental. There were all these different things about, like, how can I use my friends, like, what kind of collaborations can I do, you know, like, I had the Aromanga Sensei podcast and the Rick and Morty podcast and the Made in Abyss podcast with Nate. I had the Game Boys podcast with Hippo. I had, like, all these random things I had filmed with Nate and Jesse when I went to their houses. I had tons of things I did with May. You know, Let's Plays, podcasts, just so much shit was coming out. And I would do every week on my Patreon a weekly roundup where I would, you know, gather all these things and post them. And the thing is that while nothing I did was explosively popular or even popular with all of my patrons, all of it was someone's favorite. The only times I would ever cancel things was when they were no one's favorite. Like, Game Boys was one of the few shows I did where, like, no one was like, this is my favorite show you've done. And that's why we didn't even finish the first season of the show that we had planned. And we decided to just retool it into a different show that would make more sense. Because I would make something like Digi and May's Ota Cave Expedition, and like 1 or 2 patrons would be like, wow, this was like my favorite formula that you've ever done. It says I have 0 minutes on the card. How is that possible? So basically my theory was that if everything I put out is someone's favorite, and I'm putting out so much stuff all the time, then, like, you know, even if you only watch 1/7 of the content, that still means you get a video every week. However, not enough people thought that these were their favorites individually to, like, keep that same Patreon amount going forever. And there were a lot of, like, you know, I'm the type who just constantly comes up with ideas and throws things out there and says, like, oh, well, I'm going to try this thing, I'm going to try this thing, oh, the content's going to go in this direction, it's going to go in that direction, and there was a lot of stuff that was going on, like, with me just emotionally, or, like, the way I was treating my videos, and so I would talk a lot about all these format switches and things, and some people would be really down for what it sounded like I was going to do, but then the actuality of it wouldn't be exactly what it sounded like, or there would be people who just were not happy with the way I was making the content sound like it was going to go, and then would be confused when it turned out that it was basically the same as it had always been. Because, for me, like, the mindset I approach it with changes things in ways that most people don't even really perceive. Even this video I just put out, the rebuild of Digibroleon, like, the only takeaway you really need to have from it is, I'm gonna make 30-minute analysis videos again. Because the fact of the matter is, that is, at the core, what people want. And I've always known that, because that's where all my success came from. My biggest videos are the Asterisk War Sucks, the Sword Art Online videos, and the Why Good Anime is Hard to Make. If you ask my patrons when did they start viewing me, they usually name one of those series, or something from those eras. And most of them, like, are always asking me to do that kind of content again. And I tried to find a way to do it that would be fulfilling for me. Because I wanted to do, if I'm gonna, like, do a 30-minute video, I want it to be like, oh, I'm gonna cover a whole fucking guy's career, or I'm gonna cover, like, this whole studio's background, because I like to write really densely packed, you know, tight shit. And for me, like, getting better as a writer mostly entails getting tighter, getting denser, finding better ways to phrase things. So, like, something I would have been excited to write is, like, the My Favorite Anime videos that I did towards the back end of last year, where I just, like, took each of my favorite shows, boiled it down to, like, the absolute core of what I liked about it, and then tried to express that as densely as possible. And those were really fun to write, and they made me feel really great to have written them, but as I explain in Compress Decompress, they're kind of besides the point of art in general, which is to waste your fucking time. And you can go visit that video for me to, you know, explain it in more depth, but essentially what brought me to this decision that I feel comfortable, you know, going back to this sort of style, is that back in 2015, I made 30-minute long videos, or I made, you know, 4-hour analysis, because I thought that was the best I could do. Like, I thought that the Asterisk War Sucks was the best video series I had ever made. And when I rewatch those videos now, I don't like them that much because they're so loose. They're not that tight. And it's not because I was trying to make them long, it's because I wasn't as good at writing tight scripts at the time. So I look back at that and I think, wow, I was a failure as a writer and I need to get better by tightening things up. But now what I recognize is that that's not what people wanted. People wanted long-form analysis videos. And, like, if I write those now, it's not as though I have to add fluff in to make it tighter. My writing just is tighter now. I just need to write more words. People don't want me to boil down my favorite to just the essential elements of what I like about it. They want to hear everything I like about it expressed in this new, tighter writing style. So because of the fact that I've put so much emphasis on, like, the main channel video being just one small part of this big cornucopia of things I do across all these channels, half of which are experimental, meanwhile making, like, 5 albums last year, and, you know, stuff that's just for me that, like, doesn't make me any money and nobody cares that much about it, except for, like, a few diehards. Again, everything was someone's favorite, but it wasn't enough people's favorite. And it just so happened that when We Have Accepted Mediocrity came out, it was meant to be me making this statement that, like, hey, I'm gonna get back to, like, it's all gonna be long, cool videos, but the problem is that they were coming out once a month, because I was trying to make all of them heavily edited, full, big pieces. So you got, like, the Makoto Shinkai video, the great director who time forgot. You know, those two were like sort of the precursors. Then you got We Have Accepted Mediocrity, and then Finish or Fail. And then when Finish or Fail didn't really turn out a big view count, that was when I realized that, like, while people want the length and they want the, you know, they want it to be something bigger and more fulfilling, they don't necessarily care about how edited it is, or that, like, that extra huge amount of effort was put in. They just want it to be, like, baseline a long analysis video. Like, the amount of effort it took to make Finish or Fail would, like, vastly outstrip an equivalent amount of time of the Asterisk War Sucks, you know? But, like, it's just not as interesting. The subject matter of the video is not something people cared about. No one really gave a fuck about why I didn't like these 3 shows that I chose in that video. People want to hear about why I hate this, you know, this legendary piece like Sword Art Online, like the most popular fucking show in the world. Like, that's why people like that video. It's not just because it's an hour-long analysis, it's because it's an hour-long analysis of Sword Art Online, you know? And again, I've always known these things. I've just been trying to find a way to beat it, to make the money without having to kowtow to the demands of the audience, and it was working. It's just that now, it's not that I'm like it's not that my Patreon dipped so far that it became a problem, it's that my cost of living rose so far that it became a problem. I moved to a more expensive place. I have someone I'm helping to take care of now. You know, like, there's reasons for me to need to make more money, and the paradigms that I had set up to go forward with, like, when I changed the channel iconography, when I started how they marketed, it was supposed to be a spending venture. Like, my theory was, I'm going to invest in this. I was going to pay a lot of people to work on it with me. And then it was like, oh, if I can't afford to pay people to work on this series, it can't happen. It just can't happen in the way that I imagined it. And, like, so now if I want to make it real, I just have to make way more money as a baseline. So basically, it's just me coming back to the fray of something I already knew. It's not as though I somehow forgot that this was how you make money on Patreon. I just didn't need the money until now. And now that I need the money, I'm gonna do it. But there's also is a reason that I am so willing, and granted, like, this didn't happen immediately. It's not as though I figured out I needed money and then instantly made this change, though I did announce that I was going to do it at the start of July. I just had a lot of crazy shit happen in July, so I didn't really get to start doing this with the seriousness I wanted to. But I also had a change in mindset when I realized the stuff that I did in the Purpose of Anime video, that, like, because all of it's basically the same, and that, like, you know, I don't really see art as something that I need to do to express myself anymore, to have people understand me, because I have enough people who understand me, and, like, the fact that I have you know, my fiance who understands me perfectly fine, and I don't feel like I need to prove myself to people anymore. I'm not really looking for approval. I'm not really looking for people to watch my video and tell me it's a masterpiece. And because I already know what I can accomplish, I already know that, like, yeah, if I want to, I can make great stuff. I don't have to do it now, and there's no reason I can't just make these you know, super long videos. And I used to think of them as a huge waste of, like, my time, that, oh, it's gonna take me weeks to write and edit and watch this whole show. But I've gotten so much faster than that. This Shinsekai Yori video, the hardest part of it was just watching the show, which took about 2 days, and then the next day I wrote a 35-minute video in about 6 hours. And if I was editing it myself, I could do it in about 2 days, because I'm not gonna put the level of effort into it that Davoo is, but I'll put enough effort into it that people will watch it and enjoy it. And for fuck's sake, I've said this 1,000 million times. This is advice I've given to everyone who I've helped with their career, which is, by the way, a lot of YouTubers. Like, guys like Jeff Thu, a lot of what they changed about their content was because I told them to. I told him how to sell out, and I just didn't do the things that I told him to do. But something I always tell people is, my Sword Art Online analytical diatribe has 1.1 million views, and it is set to shitty, grainy footage of Terra Online. No one actually cares about the editing. They care about the title and the thumbnail. That is all it takes to get views. And if people watch your video and they come away from it thinking, wow, that was impressive, then they now love you and they will patron you. And that's all you need. If they come away from it thinking, wow, that guy's a fuckboy, or wow, I didn't get the point, then they're not going to patron you. And so when he talks about Davoo in this video, about how my Patreon had taken this long, slow period of decline, it's because most people who had patroned me were patroning to get a certain type of content. And if you felt satisfied that one of the alternative projects I was working on was your favorite, you didn't unpatron. If none of them was your favorite, and for months it just felt like I was putting out random bullshit that you don't care about, and you see it as a diminishing quality, then you're gonna unpatron. And, like, to me, the stuff that people tell me is my high quality content, I just don't respect the way they do. Like, people tell me things like, oh, your quality's gone downhill, and I'm like, that's impossible, because I don't like my old videos. I don't like anything I wrote before more than 6 months ago, because my style has changed to be what I would call better. I think it's so much denser, so much more interesting, and I'm just smarter, and I know more shit, so the stuff I'm talking about is just better. But, like, you know, it's just a matter of perspective, and I know what people want, so I can just give them that if I need money, and if I don't, once I, you know, don't need as much money, then I can focus on doing things that are more experimental again. And not to say that I'm going to just stop with the money making, because at this point, because of the lessons I've learned and the fact that I don't, like, put as much value on, you know, realizing myself as I do on just making stuff for the sake of itself, like, I'm probably more likely gonna make a lot more of the big, dumb content even going forward, because, again, I could do it so fast that it doesn't matter. Anyway, I've repeated myself about 70 times in this video. It's just been a while since I did a vlog, alright?